Okay, it's Saturday, September 1st, if you can believe that. I'm actually having trouble believing that it is already September. So many things were happening in my life a year ago, so many things, and I had no idea at that point where any of it was leading. I was following at that point, the vision, the intuition was the furthest it's been in terms of really not knowing what it could be, because there are that many potentially beautiful different stories that I could weave together in my life right now to bring together the most incredible life of my dreams in the very near future. So that's the feeling that's pulling me. See, right there I let myself be altered by thinking for a second this may or may not be shared. It cannot matter whether or not this is going to be shared with anybody outside of this little tape recorder. That is how you remove all ego from it. It cannot matter. You're not doing it for any of those reasons. You are allowing yourself to say whatever comes out of your mouth in this moment right now, trying to be as connected to this moment right now, like that connected to the thoughts that most want to come out right now. That's the power of the verbal word still. I believe we're evolving beyond the verbal word very, very quickly, because that's from whence we came, and that is what we're essentially returning to in our whole journey. If you think about it, our whole journey in this physical life essentially is to die so your spirit goes to heaven. Is that not what we say in all the faiths? That's what this whole journey is about, is going back home, going to heaven. The only part we messed up is that we made the rules to believe that it had to be suffering and miserable. And the truth is, it's the exact opposite, which makes us one. That's what I'm saying. I said this in one of my early couch videos. I'll call them my couch videos. And that's hilarious. I won't share why. But anybody that knew me, whoa, that's hilarious. My couch videos. In fact, I gotta take pause here on this tangent. And this is for those in my life who, I won't even say know me well enough, because we generally associate well enough with the length. It's not about the length of time. It's about the strength of the connection. Because we're evolving beyond words, you're going to find more and more people crossing your life path right now with whom your energies just go zip, and they are like in line, where you don't even recognize the feeling that you feel. Why is that happening? Because it is an example of how the universe is screaming at us and saying, like, it's so easy what we have to do. We literally just need to let go of the old rules. We just need to let go of the old game by letting go of the rules and just break it on down from there within your own life. I have got so many people like that in my life right now with whom the energy goes zzz, and we are aligned on something. What does that mean? In my interpretation, that means one of us is a teacher and one of us is a student in at least one area of our lives. We are crossing one another's path, and it could be as something as a minor thing. I'm crossed the path of somebody in the checkout line to remind them that a complete stranger can bring a smile to like a genuine loving feeling to them, even though they're having the worst day. Like, that's how great life is. That I am having the worst day of my life. I am miserable. I just want to hate everybody and be mad. You're in the checkout line, and all of a sudden you interact with this chick, right? Who does she think she is? Bopping around with just her energy. She doesn't even need to say a word, and her energy is annoying me. Like, it's just bopping around like, life is great, life is great. Lady, who do you think you are? Can't you see I want to be pissed off right now? Get away with your happy energy, the happy just because I'm alive energy. That's so annoying. Yet they can't resist. In fact, it happens so quickly that they aren't even able to start comprehending it till they're in the car driving home. And then it's just a beginning. It was just like, they have shifted so quickly from having the worst day to feeling just a whole new level of renewed hope for humankind. Because that's how low our bar has gotten, folks. We truly do resent that many people. I'm speaking generally here, and the essence of what I'm meant to begin talking about is bringing up the specific examples of this, and how in so many ways we are raining on everybody's parade because we're so pissed off and disconnected in our own lives. It ain't about anybody else but you. It's entirely about you and your connection. How good you feel. You're feeling that same loving energy, that same connection. It's because whoever you're living your life with, whether it's alone in your house or with the people that you're with, if you're sharing happiness together, you are both aligned somewhere exactly right in your life, and it freaking feels fabulous. And you shouldn't give a crap what the person next to you is doing when you're in that place. That's why I had to change my tagline. And yes, I know this podcast is going all over. Why do you think I changed my tagline? Well, of course you wouldn't know. See, that's been the problem. I've got so many super smart people in my life that I just assumed that they would all be able to follow this endless connecting stream of thoughts in my mind that are mathematically calculating, assessing, and like my head is a giant science experiment right now. And it is I'm such a geek that it's the intricacies of this science experiment that are providing me with all the fuel to keep going. Because 98% of the people in my life still think I've got some screws loose, that I'm still not back to, regular living. Okay, this is even a little long for Alyson. Usually she fizzles out when she's super excited like this after a year. But she's now got over 2 years. I've got 2.5 years of spreading this annoying to so many love. Spreading this energy. Why and how? Because I consciously began that using Facebook. That is my first book that I am going to be working to publish this fall. That's it. The Facebook showing and demonstrating how I use the Facebook status update very, very, very consciously in my life, starting when I was at the end of the healing year in Michigan. So I would have to look because I would be able to tell by the entries, but I'm going to say somewhere around March of 2009. So, I'm sorry, 2009. March of 2011 is when this started. So 2.5 years ago, I began to very purposely use the Facebook updates because I believe that thoughts have huge amounts of energy right now. In fact, I think thoughts have greater energy than the words. Okay? Because and this is just based, again, on the science experiment that has become my life and the data that I'm taking in and assessing how it is aiding me or hindering me from manifesting the new story that I have understood. Like, I have understood how to bring it to quote unquote reality, observable to others reality. I've understood it almost since the moment it was introduced to me via Abraham Hicks in May of 2011. But it has taken me 2.5 years of conscious living, coming up on 2.5 years of 100% conscious living in the world. Like, knowing that it is never anybody else's fault about how I'm feeling. Like, as soon as any part of me went to blame anybody, hate anybody, judge anybody, I knew how it worked. I knew that was a sign that I still was feeling that about myself. So stop worrying about others. Look at what that's reflecting back to you about looking within. For it has taken me 2.5 years of I keep saying understanding this game so very well to break, and with that knowledge, with that understanding, with that awareness, I had to pair it. I had to merge it with being this third dimensional being that is part of a society that believes we don't have the power that we do. We believe the power of what we reference as God is separate from us, when in actuality it is us. That is the awakening. And when you awaken to that, when you go on this journey between your old story and your new story, because as soon as you get a whiff of that truth, as soon as you get a whiff of the truth, which I will state again, is essentially just remembering that we are not these bodies. We are limitless, non-physical beings, entities, energy, living a physical experience. And we have written the story so far over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We keep repeating it. Essentially the same story of it. Life has to be a struggle. That surviving is why we came here. And believe me, folks, most people are still in survival energy. It's really no different than if you were out there with a loincloth and a club chasing your food and getting your exercise by chasing it. We are not as far removed from that as you think on some levels, depending on your perspective, meaning we are still in survival mode. It just looks all fancy schmancy, especially if you're over here in America. The energy is what's shifting. When you remember that we chose it for that challenge, you chose this because when you start to remember, nothing feels better. Like, nothing feels better when you start to remember. And it's so intense, especially for you in this world who are trying to control it the most type A, the most regimented of you out there. That is what I was. It will blow your minds the most, I dare say. One of my many hypotheses for my science experiment of my life is that particular wiring is wired in such a way that as you remember, as compared to other wirings, your reaction is the strongest, because you have everything on the surface says you shouldn't be surviving at all. Everything on the surface says you are living a fantasy. How could you ever be upset about anything when you don't want for the basic needs? That is what so many of our world are saying now. This is the real message of the 1%, folks. I'm talking to the 1%. I'm talking to the 1%. That's who I have the capability of reaching. So anybody else below the 1%, easy peasy in terms of how to figure out how to put this message and wrap it up into a nice little package that the masses will consume. Oh my God. I am speaking to the 1%, and I am going to dump your world completely upside down. And what's so crazy is I'm not speaking to the 1% that you think I'm referring to. Let me say that one more time. I am not speaking to the 1% that you think I'm referring to. The mass media, the mainstream world 1%, the Wall Streeters, the ones that have the 1% of the most literal money, whatever the hell that is, paper credit value in terms of the dollar. You think I'm talking about the 1% of those folks. Now, hear me on this before I state the one and describe the 1% to whom I'm really talking to, who the ultimate message is to. Hear me when I say this, that many of those people to whom I'm directing the ultimate message, they very well could be part of the 1% of the super financially wealthiest people on our planet. In fact, I dare say, as yet another hypothesis, that is exactly what has the potential to spread through my network. Because again, the timing of it all, this is an opportunity for every one of the 7+ billion people on our earth to come along to create something new. We have the capability to do that. The previous times, I think, when the timing of the energy of the universe was in this place that it is right now, because when you think of how old the universe is, believe me, this has come around before what we're going through. This is nothing terribly unique in the world of the whole universe. But in our Earth existence, this is horribly unique, wonderfully unique. Horribly unique, no, wonderfully unique. Because there's going to be increasing overlap between those groups. Right now, in my direct network, maybe I have direct that I can think of. Maybe a few individuals who might be part of that 1%, but I've got some very financially wealthy people in my network that I could directly reach out to and most likely get a response of some sort. Okay? So let's define it as that. Let's define your network. Let's set up some definitions for these little chats that we're going to have here once a week. Because it's time I bring everything in the balance. I can't maintain doing a podcast every single day. I mean, I could. That's the whole point. I could, and I could love it. The old story Alyson could really probably love it. But when you realize, why would I want to rush any of it? There's no rush. And the more people that I can get to slow down with me, your mind is going to be blown with how much more beautiful life can get. And the crux of it is, I think, to have the most love and sharing it with the most people. And when you increase your chances of being able to do that, to maximize that, when you learn how to only look at the parts of people that you align with positively. Okay? Don't sit there and try to keep finding the thing, too perfect, and nitpick until you finally get to something that, now I can be upset with you, now that I've reached this. Just eliminate that ridiculous way of interacting with one another from your entire life. But to do that, it takes practice, and that is what I'm here to share. Because when you instead only look at the positive that you share with somebody, knowing that there are going to be things that you disagree on, but why in the hell, why would you fight over what you disagree over and try to convince one another of your stance, knowing the small chance that will ever happen because your life experiences are so different? Even if they're super similar, they're so different that the beauty, everything changes. Everything changes because all of a sudden you see what we could be doing with one another. Like you cannot imagine. Again, that's where the phrase came from. I wanted to give the power, the part of the world peace tagline, and I lost this tangent, God, how long ago. The part that I was ready to state was in 1 year's time. Basically saying, yes, something this big can be achieved in this little amount of time. Again, all those words, all those labels and quotations. This big in quotations. Done in this little amount of time. Everything in quotations, because you got to understand we are moving beyond the words. And those of us that can open our minds to that and that have the intellectual capacity to process huge numbers of words, oh my God, you will understand. I swear you will understand. You'll be like, oh my God, given Alyson's personality, no wonder she was like a crazy woman. No wonder it seemed like she was on drugs all the time when she was completely sober. No wonder that this came out of her being the character that she was in this old story. Because you will understand it. You'll be like, this is the most powerful stuff, the most powerful feeling. You will know, you will understand the concept of the power of love creates worlds. We are creating a new earth, and all 7+ billion of us have the potential of hearing this story. Because the super poor get it, folks. That's why the US, that's why this was just the next logical step in the big human race experience. We were just the next logical step to really take these words on a real ride. Words like freedom, words like independence, words like personal responsibility. All right, bitches, you want to really go head to head? The people that are screaming those words the loudest, i.e. politicians and people with great power and influence in terms of the way we define those things in this world, they're screaming those things the most. And yet, if they want to logically look at the reality of how hypocritical everything has become, there's no way the only way you can't see that truth is if your beliefs is because of your beliefs, and if your beliefs have gotten that so far from the core of your spirit. These are the most powerful times in the physical existence. So, the 1% I'm speaking to are the 1% of people, all ages, all backgrounds, all faiths. I don't care if you're living under a rock. I truly, because believe me, many of the people that are hearing this message haven't been far from living under a rock. They get it. But statistically speaking, there've got to be a few others of you that were like me, that had the skill set to be able to be that 1% in this old game, but you just couldn't you couldn't compromise. The compromise was too great. I could make the compromise for about a year. I could do it for about a year. That's why I kept moving around. That's how much I've been compromising my spirit in every job since I left Michigan. Because interestingly, my first jobs were the best ones of my life. Oh, these are tangents unlike, it's like almost every single word out of my mouth, almost every thought has become a tangent. And I'm telling you, for the thinking person, the awakening is the most beautiful thing you've ever experienced. You will want to find a way to try to describe it. It's because, again, the serious thinkers, we're the ones that are the most, we want the challenge. We love the challenge. We can't help it. The beings that we came to in this life, that we chose, this life, we can't help it. Our spirit craves the challenge. When you feel how impossible it is to explain this with words, the artist has to come screaming out of you, because you'll want to find a way to communicate it, and you will quickly learn that words can't even come close. And the only person, if you needed a person from whom that statement had significant weight, you aren't going to find many more talkative motherfuckers than me. You just won't. So for me to say that words can't even come close, I will share, because oh, see, I did it again. Again, I was going to talk to this like it mattered if it was being recorded. If I have complete trust in knowing that I am just in the moment, following the energy of what thoughts want to come through Alyson Irene Noune right now. That's all. I am trying to live my life as much every single day to be that aware of the energy coming through me. And you can't move as fast as I used to move and process that much. But because it's such a habit, I've been trying to keep up that pace, because patience has been so hard for me, with about 20,000 more thoughts per second coming at me, like in terms of trying to define them with words. There are so many beautiful things to share just through all the stories. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You guys know how much I talk. And I could weave together infinite stories now. Infinite. Depending, and I get to decide who's my audience. And that narrows my focus. Right now, what I would say, what I interpret the ascended beings, the Jesuses of our physical existence, what would Jesus do? Here's what that means, man. Jesus trusted 100% that he was walking the walk, man. Walking the walk. And if walking the walk meant he was going to upset people, well then that's tough. If walking the walk meant he was going to perform miracles, get ready to be in his presence. Because that energy is not energy of the norm. Good or bad, it's gonna send a shockwave through things. So get ready. And if it results even in what any of us would say would be the worst calling in the world, who in the world would sign up for that job? Where he was following his truth so much that he gets nailed alive to a cross, when all he's doing is spreading love? Whoa, dude. That's one freaking challenging road, friend. Wow. You better believe I'm going to bow down to that energy. But here's the deal. Jesus said it all along. You can do what I can do and more. We are all that light of God, friends. Your only job is to trust it. Trust it. But obviously, in the way that we've structured our world, and here in America, it's the hardest because we're the quote-unquote, we're still the richest. So all the outside world says, what do you people ever have to bitch about? Like, stop your bitching over there. You're the richest country in the world. You're 5% of the population using 25% of the resources. Shut up. That's what the rest of the world's energy has every right. But that's part of it. That's their role. Now it's time, United States, for us to step up to our role. To stop ignoring the reflection in the mirror. Stop attacking Syria is the latest one, right? And this from a girl who doesn't watch the media. Don't turn it on. But I know Syria and chemical weapons only because it was playing at the farm, a place I used to love to work. But my beliefs have gone so far because I'm not about focusing on the negative no matter what perspective you're coming from. I refuse to see the negative. I don't want to see the negative. And here, one of the most energetic, highly positive energetic places in my life, simply because of the food being grown there. And let alone the energy of the souls I've met there, of the people, but the food alone, and what value that has and the power it has to heal in our world right now. That farm, that is Buddha Bill. When I say Sarasota has an energy and that farm is the center of it, I mean it. And I felt it from the moment I stepped on that farm. Just over 5 years ago, I started working there full time the first time around. Almost 5 years ago. And my world was rocked because it was so far from what I had created for myself, and worse, what I thought I still yearned for. You want to take shit and dump it upside down and like really feel like you're going crazy? Whoa. And the older you get, the more difficult this awakening is going to be. Because the more you got to look at every single part of your life up until your awakening and recognize how, because all you'll see, because of how we are, how we're wired, all you'll see, and you'll feel the guilt. Especially in my network with all the freaking Catholics in my network. You'll feel the guilt of, because it's like, oh my God, like I should be helping everybody. You will want to sell your soul. Because you understand that your neighbor's soul is your soul. You don't want anybody to suffer in any way. And everything you've been taught is backwards. So if you've got more, I'm telling you, people that haven't awoken yet, and I know these are labels and it's not a better than. It's not a better than. I'm still really praying for guidance on how to phrase this better. But for those that have not yet awoken to this, or even begun to let it get to their heart, I know it because I was there. I'm telling you, you are more powerful than me in the number of people you can affect and how quickly you could do it. That might mean because of where you work. That might mean because of who you know. That might mean because of how much you have in terms of any sort of resource. That might be because of what you're being called to do. And if you're being called to do something musically or artistically in this day and age, if you are meant to express such things in this life, get ready. Because I am certain I am meant to be dancing and singing. I know it. Dancing, singing, and drumming. I know it. I know it. But I have to develop it. I have to practice. And right now, it's going to be the main conduit for me, those activities and my athletics, to calm this energy down so I can deliver the message to whomever I want. Because that's what I'm here to do. It's my want is the greater energy's want. I know it. I know it. It's why I can put on hold the life of my dreams, right? Of my selfish Alyson in a good way. Okay? Don't beat yourself up for your dreams. No. But my dream life is waiting for me in Seattle. My dream life for me in this life is waiting for me in Seattle. Even if it just means getting myself back there full time. But it's not about me. I'm still breaking from that story. It'll come back, and it's changing. Because I have to remember it's about all of us. And my role right now, I am meant to be able to deliver a message to a lot of people. And most powerfully, I have the capability of delivering a message to the 1%. The 1% of people that I believe have the potential to have the wealthiest new measure of value. Not the wealthiest bank account, the wealthiest heart, which you can't measure. But you can feel it. You can feel the wealthiest heart. It's that genuine. It's that you don't know why, but this person, you could disagree with them from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, yet you don't feel anything towards them that you feel to others who would hold those opinions. In fact, quite the opposite. You've never been more attracted to somebody expressing these things that you believe you don't believe, these different beliefs. Again, the goal is, I've so many tangents. I want to get back to the Jesus one, because ultimately the goal for me is to let this record, and I'm doing a pretty good job in this first attempt, to just let what wants to come out right now, knowing that it's changing, that I change course, I change road almost every sentence. And what I'm trying to begin to paint the picture of artistically, and what I am trying to share with others, because you are part of the process. This is a piece of art unlike anything else. We can make the story anything we want. It's like a choose your own adventure. Every time I start a different thought, if I follow that whole from that point on, I can weave together an incredible story. A story about what my life has been, a story about life in general, a story about what we are facing right now, a story about what we can create. We can make it anything we want, friends, anything. There are that many combinations of ways if we wanted to, right? And that's the big if right now. If we all wanted to pool our resources, think about it like that. Think about it as we are all on the same team, every single human being. Let's pool our resources like never before. Just call us all even. Judge me for my energy. Judge me for what you feel. Judge me for that. And how I'm able to get you from your life today towards creating the life that you want. The gurus don't have to say, shit, man. Jesus did, because he was meant to be a messenger. Jesus was meant to have a big stage, not for the sake of being famous and having the big stage, but because his strength of character was going to be able to withstand the times in which he lived to follow his truth, even if it meant he looked like he was the only one on the face of the planet doing it. Got it? And the quieter Jesuses, like Maharaji, the guru of Krishna Das, who is singing in the background. And you're damn right I'm riled up in the best of ways. I'm not apologizing. This is where the story's supposed to begin this time. Yep, many of you, especially those in my network, you're going to be like, what the hell is she talking about? She sounds crazier than ever, yet I'm going to predict something. I'm going to predict that now all of a sudden, you don't know how it's possible, but you kind of have an idea where I might be going here. You won't be able to go any further than that, but there's going to be something within you that's going to be like, I still don't know what the hell she's doing. And she really does sound crazier than ever, but somehow it makes more sense to me than with anything that she's said thus far. That's why the power is in the not planning. But I stepped too far to that because I'm a bipolar freak in nature. No one would choose the extremes that I have managed to put myself through for the majority of my life. You're like a masochist if you choose the challenges I've chosen and refuse to see the lessons. Finally, when I started the journey 5 years ago here in Sarasota, I was open to the lessons. I was that desperate. This is for me to let loose. Because now it's going to be about, like I said, so remember, I'm essentially believing I'm starting from zero right now. I know how people are like, blah, 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 blah. She just so wordy. She goes on and on and on. I know what because what we projected to others doing, you do it enough and they'll actually say it to you. But everything else, if they don't actually say it to you, you don't really know what they're thinking. That's you projecting your shit out. Just look in the damn mirror. Yeah, okay, this looks like it's my story, but it's our story. It's our human story. That's why my ass has had the crazy, drastic experiences that I've had. Again, bipolar. I had to experience the extremes to be able to then, when I had to experience those so that when I awoke, and realized that because of those experiences and because of all the gifts that I have in this life, I have the ability to communicate this message, I believe, to anybody. But do you know how, if that's my belief and it's not coming from ego, do you know how that gets, how getting used to that? You want to know where Jesus went for 30 years? That's where Jesus went, man. The dude had to disappear. I bet if you ask Jesus' childhood friends, none of them were surprised when he showed his ass back up at whatever age, 31, 32, 36, I don't remember. See, because I'm a Catholic. We don't read the Bible. We depend on somebody else's interpretation. Why, oh why would it matter that we have our own interpretation? Are you kidding me? Therein lies number one problem in the Catholic faith right there. That sets the whole tone for separation. No wonder, it never, ever, ever spoke to me as a child. But we stay, and I don't think it speaks to a lot of the Catholics in my family. But you stick with what you know, I get that. Why else do you think I binged on shitty food for more times than I want to admit in the past 3 weeks? I can't even believe it. Because we stick with what's known. We forget. We forget. In our remembering, we still forget. In the awakening, you still forget. Because you're shifting. It's like once you awaken, you want to live that way every single minute of the day. And while, yes, it is theoretically possible to make that shift. Okay, yes, theoretically, the richest person on the face of the earth could decide the very next day to give it all up and give all the money away and go live in the mountains of India. That's possible. How probable is that? Not very probable. And that's okay, because remember, it's not about us to judge it all. Don't judge it. But I'm saying, So depending on the extent that your life in this game is different from the one your soul is screaming for, it's gonna take some practice to break yourself free from all of the limiting patterns and habits of our old world. So, and I just happen to have a couple that are not only super powerful, but unfortunately they've been increasing in recent, I'll say centuries even, but certainly decades. I'm speaking specifically or referring to specifically the body image and eating disorders. That one's really, well, for females, it's the main thing that karmically goes back because we've been so objectified. It hasn't always been the thin ideal that it is in our American westernized world that it is today, but we've always been objectified. So it's a deep energy issue with women, and it's only morphed itself into eating disorders in very recent decades. I argue probably since the women's movement, when all of a sudden we got to see what we were capable of doing. Shit. But then trying to reconcile that with everything you've been told about yourself, shit. Can you begin to see how fucking hard that is? So give yourself a break. It's going to be hard. And the harder you tell yourself it will be. So don't tell yourself it's going to be hard for too long, but let yourself accept how hard it is and do it, reverse it. Don't do it by talking about how hard it is. Do it by being gentler on yourself, by rewarding yourself and patting yourself on the back for still being alive. Because if you live in this country, in this day and age, in America, I don't care what your social status is. I really don't. I don't care if you're the richest person or the poorest person. The energies of our country are so intense that we super strong souls here. Because breaking free from any habit where you're not treating yourself well. So that's all. We have been beating ourselves up for millennia. Okay? So let's just start softening. And I'm speaking to myself. Remember, I'm speaking to me in all of my work. I'm speaking to myself. But you guys are part of this because you are me. I am you. My story is your story. It's like Bashar says, when you look in the mirror, you really are disconnected if you think that image is going to smile before you smile. Just because of the science of it all in our physical world. For that reflection to smile, you have to smile first. The believing is the seeing. It's the reversing. Not seeing is believing. You got to believe first. Believe it's possible to reverse how shitty you feel. Put that smile on your face even if it doesn't feel right, because it will get easier. And then all of a sudden your outside world will reflect back to you this belief. Your dream life will start coming true, and it will blow your mind. Because as it begins to come true, your desires begin to change remarkably. And I'm going to say and predict that all the material things, all of a sudden, none of that. It'll fall away. And the most important thing you want is connection with others. You want to share this, but you want it to be coming from the pure place. And it's not about judging those who are getting there artificially. It isn't. That's the beautiful part. So while you're all working to get here purely, because that's what our journey is, to know that euphoria you feel, whether you're drinking coffee or snorting coke, it's within you, naturally. And there are tons of tools to get at it more quickly. Diet, exercise, what we're putting into our bodies, lighten it up. Again, I'm screaming that at the top of my lungs to myself, with love. Believe me, this is coming with love. But it's so, when you learn the rules of this new game and you begin to see them in action, you will understand you don't ever want to break them. Whereas the rules of the old game, we got everybody looking for loopholes everywhere. Both legally, literally, and metaphorically. Everybody's looking for the easy way out. We're looking for the easy way out to get our bodies the way they are. We're looking for the easy way out to fix our relationships. Pills ain't gonna do it. Therapists ain't gonna do it if none of it's gonna work unless you believe it's possible. And if you believe it's possible, what you will realize is you don't need anything outside of yourself. Because if you believe it's possible, what it entails is having unlimited access to this truth, even when you're physically alone, simply by slowing down and meditating, or just slowing down in nature. Because there's so much natural energy in nature, you don't even have to, you just go out there. If you're like I was, you just go out there and you cry. That's why my first year in Seattle, I only went to the mountains 5 times. 5 or 6 times. And the one time I did, for the longest period, like the most beautiful trip with somebody else, with one of my cousins, my front tooth fell out. Literally. That's, you want to talk about like silly beyond belief, and and the miracles associated with that story, honest to God, rocked my world. The truth that experience revealed to me. And who would ever put such a story together? Losing your front tooth on the most powerful experience really of my life, because of how open I was at that time. Being in the mountains, that was my life. That was a weekend getaway of my life, not a vacation. So much it rocked my world that I lost my front tooth. Me, somebody who, while I have had all my other body image issues, the one thing about myself that I've always had confidence in and loved is my smile. And I lost my front tooth. That I could write an entire book on the stories associated just with that experience. And that is one of not dozens, hundreds of stories I could share just from the past less than a year. I'm sorry, less than 2 years, because that was almost 2 years ago. It was October of 2011. So get ready, because this is going to be sharing unlike ever before, although it might not seem as such with this first recording. And yes, I am absolutely positively 100% aware of the fact that I went off on a tangent, I'd say on average every 4 sentences. Even with going into as much detail as I did about a few thoughts, like a lot of detail. Even with all those details, with that many, I still think it was that relatively low percentage of only 25% of the time did I follow myself. Every 3 out of every 4 thoughts were leading, like right after another would lead to something else. Because there's that many stories that I can weave together. So, welcome to the early fans, the early fans. Because if you catch this one when it's posted, likely it won't be posted till September 2nd. It might get posted tonight, September 1st. And all I told myself was that work started in some way, shape, or form again today. And I started a blog post, but that wasn't flowing. This came out today. Every day I'm going to be doing something. And trusting, and the goal truly is to let whatever thought wants to come out in that moment, whatever and however it wants to be expressed. Whether it's in writing, whether it's through my own singing, whether it's through dancing, whether it's through painting, or a podcast like this. That's the part of this the part that's planned is going to be unveiled to you slowly, because I am following, and I've got a lot of sub-plans within that, and I'm not tied to any of it. And that's the key. You got to have a plan, though. And I had to learn that this past year. Again, August was about balancing, bringing it all back into balance. I hit a wall. I hit it hard because I hit it hard in April and May, and I wasn't listening and taking the steps I needed to take at that time in all different ways to balance my life out. And then what did I do? I dug in and I produced some amazing things work-wise, especially musically, in June and July. But I hit the wall hard in August, and it was okay. But September, it's now about the campaign. The Just Evolve campaign begins with just individual me, individual Alyson, Allie. Okay? The Just Evolve campaign, because that's what I'm unveiling. That is the first speaking tour. Just Evolve is the first speaking tour. And I moved back my date. It's now November 10th. So that's the first, and it's a workshop, which will include a couple of short speeches and all kinds of things. It's a workshop, 4-hour workshop. But for now, without judgment of myself, because it doesn't matter what anybody listening may or may not think about all the different tangents, or any one of them on their own, as standing alone. I am trying to respect the absolute energy of myself in this life, in this body, as much 100% of the time in the present moment as possible, and sharing that. While also knowing that I can't be there 100% yet, because I've got, my day-to-day life doesn't yet resemble what I want it to. I've got manifesting remaining, and in order to manifest, I'm still practicing. So it's got to still have a little bit of planning. You got to make the plan, have a plan, but not be tied when the plan changes. That's the whole key. So it's the balance. So I got more plan than I had in me anywhere near even 7-8 months ago. Well, shoot, I haven't had any planning in me until it started. I was forced to face that in August, and it was building in July. So anyway, okay, I'm don't ever say never, right? I'm going to try to not let these podcasts go any longer than an hour. I want to try to keep them, closer to 30 minutes. But again, this is going to be for the early fans. Anybody that's stumbling upon any of this now, if you were like me, when you found the person or the teacher that was speaking the message in a way that just hit you right away, you're going to want as much as possible in any way that you can get, especially if it's for free. And, that's how I was with Abraham. It was exactly what I needed at exactly the right time. And thank God there are hundreds and hundreds of videos on YouTube. So I'm still going to push all my influences, and you may all find them there. But if I'm that for you in any way this early on, you're not going to be bothered that this is close to an hour now. Because, again, you're not going to know what's coming out of me from day to day, because I'm still coming into such balance, and I'm still deciding to whom to direct the message. So the message is constantly changing because of the range with whom I can communicate it, to whom I can communicate it. And two, I'm playing with the art of it all, right? I'm playing with the art of it all because, you have to spell everything out for the mainstream, or increasingly, you just have to have the right vibe. Especially if you're talking music and rhythm and beat. You got the right vibe, it's going to go viral. But it's with the group that I have the potential to reach, the highly intellectual, man, artistically, man, it's just, you want to make it as beautiful as possible. Because the old part of you wants to impress them, but the new part knows you don't need to. And the artist in you wants to the challenge, the true loving challenge of weaving together the most beautiful piece of art possible to explain it. Oh, that's what's driving me right now. And because I come at it so mathematically and logically, it's still really science heavy and number heavy too. So it should be really wild. Anyway, Happy freaking September. I'm so happy September is here. It's going to be an awesome month. Take care and have a great night.